Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
We're having a pretty laid-back recording of At Your End Step.
Yeah, chill session.
Yeah, we're just hanging out on some couches. These lav mics that I've gotten while are definitely not the same quality as previous episodes, are much more comfy.
Yeah, they've made us lazier. I apologize for that.
I
apologize for us missing last week, too. That was entirely on me.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it just happens. This, again, is just a really, really busy time. And, like, we're currently sitting in Mike's house, and we're in his living room, and there's just an oven hanging out in here.
Don't tell the world my shame.
I mean, like, I understand. Like, you were doing your kitchen in your new house.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a lot of work.
So our oven is in our living room, and our
Correct.
refrigerator is in our dining room.
Correct. Well, I mean, you're really, at that point in time, you're just cutting out the middleman.
And depression is in our kitchen. So it's quality all around.
So obviously it's a busy time for, the Kenny Hassel, but I mean, it's not like I'm like not doing anything. So, it's just, I don't want to make excuses, but we're trying. Just sometimes life gets in the way. All right.
Yeah.
But before we jump into the episode, definitely want to give a quick shout out to our lovely patrons. Thank you so much for
Our super patient, awesome patrons.
Yes, thank you very much.
Who have decided to pay for content at the worst time.
We do appreciate contributing to the show. It really helps us keep the lights on over here. So if you are interested in joining our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/atyourendstep to check out our site. So we have a few community topics to kind of go over here. And the first one, obviously, is Eldraine. Previews are still going on. We were getting a bunch of cards there. Realistically, there's a ton of both. There's just a ton of flavor. And we were kind of talking about this. It was spurred on by a conversation on Twitter that was going on between, like, how some of the, flavor in Eldraine, would you say, like, it was just a conversation with some of it that seems like discordant with, like, previous flavor attempts of Wizards or WotC of sets like that,
Yeah,
right?
So this is a person we've mentioned a couple of times, Gear Per Gears. He's part of the commander, was it the advisory group? Yeah, he's a member of the advisory group. And he definitely, we've talked to him a couple of times. We talked about sort of Kaladesh flavor.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a line drawn directly into Eldraine. And here's the thing, I really like Eldraine so far.
Yeah.
With, I will be honest, a few weird exceptions.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Bartered Cow. I have to talk about Bartered Cow.
Okay.
But the idea is that, like, if you look at the flavor that is, like, you have, well, I guess not even a line, you have 3 lines. So you have a line drawn between, like, the Arthurian legend stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, Fae-based fairy tales, which, if you they did a little bit of this in Lorwyn, with, like, changelings and crib swap and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, Fae stories, if you're talking like Celtic or whatever else, like, they're dark. Like, the Fae are not good. Like, they are mischievous.
No.
And mischievous, like, we think that as like, ha ha ha. No, it's like, they stole your kid. Like, that's kind of how that works. And then there's the quote unquote, you could say Grimm's fairy tales, but it's kind of not. Are generic sort of touchstones, and this is where you're getting your your Robin Hood reference, your Little Mermaid specific reference, or Sleeping Beauty specific reference, and they do feel like, he suggested they feel sort of Disney-fied, right, and goofy, which is fine. I think, like, some people in that thread made some really good points about how, like, it doesn't all need to be a horrible murder. Like our Gothic horror plane became a cosmic horror plane, and we had to watch horrific body mutilations and art.
Right.
So it's not terrible to have these things, but he just sort of suggested, and I thought it was interesting, and you brought this up here, Morgan, that you lose some resonance when they're not magic versions. Theros was not one of my favorite sets, but as far as flavor, like, Heliod is obviously supposed to be a stand-in for Zeus, but Heliod was his own character. And the Gonds felt like their own characters. Like, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But here, like, oh no, that's Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So, and I think, like, that's tough to bring back into Magic sometimes.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously in early Magic you have tons of that. You have tons of stuff that's lifted from that. I mean, look at Arabian Nights as an entire
100%.
set.
But there's a reason they've avoided that
Right.
since then. Well, there's a number of reasons they've avoided that since
Some
then.
of them may be legal.
The other part of that is going back to the Arthurian legend stuff, though. I saw a ton of people in conversations with him and other people. Mark Rosewater's in this thread. I maybe go look it up. It's pretty good. But one of the things that we talked about on an earlier episode was, people. I saw people on Twitter say, "Oh man, I can't wait for my quest for the Grail card," and I was like, you're not getting that card.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize the Arthurian legend it's a Christian story. Knighthood, chivalry exists because of Christianity. They needed a way to convince these second and third sons of families who wouldn't hold lands that to not use their power to do bad things to peasants. So, chivalry was a big deal. That, when you talk about chivalric romance and the platonic love of idealized chivalry, this is a way to keep them moralized and in line. And you act this way and you will be rewarded. It is a very Christian element. And when you have King Arthur, this British epic hero, he's a Christian epic hero. The quest for the Grail, it's literally a rejuvenation of his life. It's a big deal. You are not going to get a Christian cup of the blood of Christ.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's something that Gear per Gears, Shivam, he talked about when it came to Kaladesh, where it's easier to do this lore when you do Amonkhet and you have the Egyptian gods and you have Theros and the Greek gods. But once you start getting to living religions, you've got to be really careful. That's not a game for people. You know what I mean? That's their spirituality. That's their life. That's their belief. Right. So yeah, if you're saying man, I can't wait to get my Grail quest card, I just have a hard time believing you'd ever see it. I guess we could get it spoiled the next few days and I'll have to eat crow, but that feels like a card they aren't going to touch. And when you look at the reason I think the Knights then feel so much better in Eldraine is because they had to make them have their own flavor. They couldn't just say it's Arthurian-esque. Look at the swords. Look at the the regalia, what have you. But no, they have to have their own lore. They can't just say this is Arthur.
Yeah,
and I think that's important.
Yeah, no.
I think and maybe the Fae gets away with it too, just because the Fae doesn't have Disney stories to pull from. It's not as common in our collective storytelling. Yeah. But those two elements of Eldraine feel definitely better in my opinion. Now I'm not upset with cards like the Robin Hood card or the Sleeping Beauty card. But it's more like we did that, and I think and again, this goes into my what I went to school for and things but when you start looking at reference culture versus literary illusion, you know what I mean? References are cool, but if you can take it and make it an illusion and actually do something with it, make a point, make a connection, as opposed to just being look at that, I think it's better. But I'm not going to fault either one. But I think it's interesting for the set. They really had to nail the flavor. I think it's okay to be goofy a little bit. Our trailer or release trailer really showed us the goofy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's okay, but I think if you compare that to the what I've heard of the Wildered Quest, I've not read it yet, but that's on a more serious level for the most part. So, and maybe Oko is the character they're trying to thread the needle with that, where he's kind of villainous, kind of like that. Maybe he's just a better version of Xenagos. I don't really know just yet,
right?
But I think it's just interesting when you look at the set. So. You want to talk a couple of cards? I know we have Palooza coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Palooza's, I think this is the week we were going to get the entire set on Friday, so Palooza will hopefully be sometime next week. So I don't want to go over everything. There are some interesting ones that we've gotten recently. We do have a set of sort of rare effect lands, so spell lands basically, that actually do generate a color. They all have a clause that they enter tapped unless you control not a basic, but a land that is a forest or a plains or what have you that matches their respective color that they generate. And they all have different sort of effects. And I think that there have been a lot of people that were these, at least in our group, there are a lot of people that are kind of disappointed on these, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter that are kind of giving feedback, and they think these are pretty powerful.
I think these are pretty powerful. They're interesting for a few reasons. One, because they're sort of the Valakut again, or the Nykthos.
Yeah, so
right?
they're all castles. They're castles representative of the specific colors.
Well, but they are specific castles.
Correct.
These should be legendary.
Yes.
And I think that's weird, because we just recently had legendary lands.
Yeah.
And now we once again don't. And I wonder why they keep going back and forth on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess you could just have multiple views of the castle, just like you could have multiple views of Valakut. I don't know, man.
Oh gosh, I guess is that the flavor they're going for?
I don't think so. That's
Come
just
see
me.
picturesque Castle Embereth from this side and this side But I do think that, like, just in talking to in our own chat and things like that, I think, like, I tend to agree with the internet consensus of this one. I think these are going to be untapped most of the time.
Yeah,
So it says,
especially in standard.
They enter the battlefield tapped unless you control the basic land type of that color. So Castle Embereth, though, enters tapped unless you have a mountain.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know if I said basic, but just a mountain. So, like,
Just a
Shocklands will
mountain.
do.
Yep.
So, yeah, so, like, they, most of the time, will come in untapped. They add a color of mana that you're looking for. And I think most of the abilities are pretty strong. The white one is obviously the one, it's 4 mana, make a token, make a 1/1 human.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful for a land that has no other real drawback. I think the blue one's powerful. I posted it today that in our chat and got some sort of tepid responses. But I think just like a land that scries 2, like, I think we've been, especially if you're a blue mage, you've been a little spoiled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as Kanto, the Sunken Road is a ridiculous card.
Yeah.
But this is close to that when you think about, like, as far as seeing cards, you get to scry 2 and then, like, draw a 3rd card if you're looking for something specific. That's pretty good for the kind of deck that would want this effect. The black one's interesting. You could draw a card and then lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Yes.
So that's interesting. The green one adds 6 green mana to your mana pool for 4 mana. But you can only cast creatures or activate abilities of creatures. But essentially, you get to ramp from 5 to 6. But it's already been mentioned that Karoo lands, for example,
Amulet Titan.
Thank you. Like, that can sort of work with this too, which is kind of interesting.
People were saying that there are frequent times where on turn 3 you have access to 5 mana. So theoretically, this is something that you could do and cast a Primeval Titan early. Yeah, and that's powerful. And it's not just for something like Amulet Titan, but it could even be for, like, I know Sam Black was talking about it in literal, like, Scape Shift, like Titan Shift.
That makes sense.
Where it's just like, I can see where that makes sense.
And again, in a deck where you're already playing, like, essentially in, like, Titan Shift, where you're just playing a ton of force anyways.
Yeah, like
this is
either passively through, like, your dual lands or actual basics.
right.
So.
And then the red one I mentioned, Castle Embereth, is actually I think my favorite one. Its activation is 1 red, tap it, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. And, like, if you're playing an aggressive red deck, right, this is coming into play untapped almost all the time. Maybe you're probably not running 4 of these, but it comes into play untapped all the time, and just, like, sits there as something to do with your mana. And those decks are always looking for something to do with their mana. If you look at the whole last year of red decks with Experimental Frenzy, they are always looking for things to do with their mana. And, like, I played back in Scars. Contested Warzone, like saw play, and that card had a real downside. So, and obviously it activated cheaper. But I think, like, this is just so innocuous. Like, I think, like, we've had such good mana bases and powerful lands because of Ixalan. You think of, like, Field of Ruin. You think of all of these flip lands. Like, our lands have done a lot. You look at Field of the Dead right now. Like, our lands do a lot of work.
Oh, for sure.
In Standard. But I think this is the kind of thing where you don't have a drawback to playing this. Look at this compared to, like, Field of the Dead, which has no special ability until you have a certain mana threshold, and only taps for colorless, and always enters tapped.
Always.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm really happy with these cards.
Yeah, I think so. They'll see a ton of play as, like, 2 people who are going to be pretty heavily into Brawl once Eldraine comes out. Like, it's very exciting to have these for, a bunch of different kinds of decks. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Speaking of Brawl and possibly, like, standard implications, I guess I wanted to talk about Gimli.
Yeah, Gimli is pretty great.
So Torban, Thane of Redfell, is a legendary creature, Dwarf Noble. He costs 1 generic red.
It should be pointed. It's part of a cycle.
Correct. There is a whole cycle of
triple C, like, it's triple of a color casting. Some are plus X, like blue has X. I think the other ones are just 3 of that color. But
I think so. Yeah. And this is the only one that kind of steps out of line. It has that 1 generic extra.
Yeah.
And it's a 2/4. It has text that says, if a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. And that's really significant.
So you play this card with Jaya Venerated. Pirate or whatever, Fire Mage, whatever it is, and ooh,
for sure.
I'll shock you for 5.
And I mean, we have a couple of like pingers that exist in the format. They don't hit creatures. I don't think. I think they're only players technically.
Still fine.
But yeah, there's like Spear Skewer, and there's one that's coming out in this set as well, which is a trebuchet meme. I don't know if you're abreast of the trebuchet Reddit at all, but
no, but I know of it.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't spend time there.
No one needs to. You just need to know it exists. But
so I like that I can be like I'll give you my Embercleave.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's the other card that I'm very excited about.
Embercleave is sweet. That's a sweet piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's I have already asked and been declined on making Embercleave my Brawl Commander. It is a legendary artifact.
I'll start my own singleton format with equipment like commanders
and enchantment commanders.
Now I could see an offshoot of what's the
Oathbreaker?
Oathbreaker, where it's like a character and their weapon.
Yeah,
I think that could be cool, and then you could have Gimli and Embercleave.
Man, that sounds so great.
So
I don't know if we've talked about Embercleave yet, but I'm going to read it because
Go for it,
I already
please.
have it pulled up. But Embercleave is 4 generic red for a legendary artifact equipment. It has flash, and it says the spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. And it says when it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. And it says equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample, and has a normal equip cost of 3. So this kind of, when you look at it, might remind you of something like a Temur Battle Rage of some persuasion.
Yeah. I think based on what CMC is going to be, I would say maybe Uncaged Fury.
Yeah.
But both cards have seen standard play. Granted, Temur Battle Rage more.
Yes.
But yeah, I think this card's sweet. I think the card's really, really powerful. I hope it sees standard play. I really do.
I'm gonna play it. It doesn't matter if it's standard play. It's gonna be brawl play.
But like, oh man, like how disgusting is that gonna be when you're just like, I'll attack with this guy, I'll block this way, and you're like, ooh, so you didn't block this guy? Hey, catch.
Yep, pretty much. And yeah, I just think this card's sweet. I'm a big fan, and I just want to play it. And again, if it could be my Brawl Commander. It literally loses like some of its surprise, you always see it there.
Just petition Verhey at this point. So I want to mention, as I already alluded to, I want to mention Bartered Cow.
Yes.
Now we got Bartered Cow in a series of 3. I think was it who was it? It was the streamer. I can't remember his name.
I don't remember.
Was it Kenji?
Yes, it was.
So it was New Mod. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so it was like Bartered Cow, 3 beans, and tall as a beanstalk. And like it's a weird take on the Jack and the Beanstalk story. Tall as a Beanstalk's really awful because the kid apparently eats the beans instead of planting them and becomes a giant. And it's some body horror garbage on that card. Where it's just
don't eat the beans.
The green card's pretty interesting because like you get if you sacrifice 3 food, you get a 7/7, and it's 2 generic and a green. But if you don't have 3 things to sacrifice, then you get 3 food.
Yes.
So, but like the flavor text in the card is like you probably shouldn't eat them though. So like that's the joke. Bartered Cow though, I can't. This is disturbing. And there's some cards like this in Eldraine where we go from goofy to please stop offending me. So Bartered Cow is 3 generic and a white for a 3/3 creature ox. When it dies or when you discard it, create a food token. Okay, we eat cows. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Here's the flavor text. At the market, no one heeded Hilda's frantic mooing. The Fey curse was turning out even worse than she had feared. And it's a little boy selling, trying to trade the cow ostensibly for the 3 magic beans, because that's how it works. Now, I've encountered a number of Jack and the Beanstalk stories. I guess I'm forgetting the one where the cow was actually the boy's mother? Because that's the implication here, is if you look at the cow was like glowing, Hilda was trying to let everyone know, like Hilda got turned into a cow.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the boy's mom who's getting sold and is going to be eaten. Now, you suggested maybe it's milking, but you don't get the food until they die. I don't know if you know much about dairy cows, but they're not like bees. You don't milk them once and that's it. Thanks, Bessie. You've sacrificed nobly for our country.
I mean, that's true.
So someone's going to eat that boy's mom, who is a cow.
But it also says when you discard it.
Yes.
Is that
the milking motion?
Is that death?
I don't know. I think it's unavoidable that you're going to eat this cow. I think that's what it's telling you.
I suppose.
I don't like that it's even vague enough that we can interpret it this way, but that's definitely a person turned into a cow. And like,
Yes.
here's the thing: people getting transformed into animals is like a weird, like we have like Pinocchio, where you see people get turned into donkeys. It's treated as horror for a lot of people. That is definitely a horror trope that is not okay. And the fact that like this boy is selling his mom for magic beans, like Jack and the Beanstalk's a weird story, anyways. Don't make it horrific.
Now, to be fair, we don't know the relation to Hilda and the boy depicted in the art.
How does that make it better?
I mean, like, maybe...
It's okay, because Hilda bullied the little boy, so she deserves to get eaten.
Yeah, but we can't just, like, say it's definitely his mother.
Yeah, I guess.
Because, like...
Why wouldn't there be a parent with this boy, then?
Well, okay, but then you just have to circle back to the original Jack and the Beanstalk, and why didn't his mom go with him to barter with the cow that wasn't a human being?
Because she was trying not to turn into a cow, apparently.
Listen, as far as I know, in the time where Jack and the Beanstalk was like an actual
Kids
story,
We're gonna
kids
start talking
just
about,
did all things wrong.
like my mom talking about like growing up as a kid,
Yeah.
like no one cared where we were. And
Yeah, you just-
I don't know why I just described my mom as having like a male smoker's voice. And I'm sorry, mom, I don't mean that, but
Yeah, I don't think.
we stayed out bartering cows till mom whistled, and sometimes mom was the cow, and the fact that she could whistle was amazing. And we took her to circuses and carnivals and
Yeah.
made a lot of money.
I mean, listen, I think like you have to separate the flavor text from the card from the mechanics.
The
And then
flavor
you-
text of the card from the flavor,
and then, well, the mechanics of the card.
the cow mostly.
And then you have to hope that the man in the art who's buying the cow isn't going to kill it, but it's going to be a dairy cow.
Okay, here's what all I can say is that if anyone's ever made a compelling argument in my life to be, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian listening to this, telling me that I might accidentally eat someone's mother who got turned into a cow, that's a pretty good argument for me. I'm gonna be honest.
That's not really good enough argument for me.
Wow.
Just gonna be honest.
Well, I mean, here's the thing though. But then, like, if you look at Little Mermaid, her dad definitely got turned into a plant, so can't eat plants either because
No.
they could be just like kings.
Could be King Triton munching on some kelp. No,
Man, why are so many Disney movies have weird body transformations? I don't like this.
we're uncovering the truth. I mean, like, but it's not Disney. It's just fairy tales. Like,
No.
why are fairy tales messed up? I don't know, man.
Here's the thing though, but I read like every Animorphs book, and that was just literally you flip the pages to get a weird body transformation on
True.
that one. So
Yeah,
all right. Anyways, we got to move on. I can't talk anymore about Bartered Cow.
that's fine. We did get the king and the queen
Yes.
of the set.
And the family portrait art is
It's very
just
good.
awesome.
I think it's Ryan Pentecost who did it. So, but it's I think it's interesting to note because Kenrith is going to be the buy a box promo.
Oh right, yeah. Kenrith is interesting. Like all 5 color activations.
Correct. So,
but I mean, all the art for like the Kenrith family is so great. The
yeah, definitely worth checking
the
out.
Lyndon, the Steadfast Queen, is just like amazing. And that was also Ryan. Was it Is it Pentecost? Pancost? Pancoast.
Pancost
I think it's Coast.
Coast.
Hunter. It was blurry. I apologize, sir, because your art is great. Pancoast.
Okay, I'll
So,
believe you.
That's,
I'm
yeah,
looking at
I
it
could
right
be
now.
crazy, but like he showed some sketches for her too, like with like the full like because in the art she's wearing like the full royal regalia. But
Yeah.
they also like showed like what it would look like taking that off, and it's pretty cool. And like the swords look cool, and just like the family is really well done. It's
Yeah,
very
for
good.
sure. That's not really. I don't think there's anything else. Like, there are definitely some like cards that I'm excited to talk about. When we do the set review and stuff like that, we'll probably cover them a little bit more.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of interesting stuff happening here in Eldraine. So.
I think I'm more excited now for Adventure than I was before.
Yeah.
There's some really, I think, cool cards with that mechanic and some playable cards that I think are just like, okay, this is a cool design. I like this.
Yeah.
So, also, a friend who works at Comic Town, went to a couple events with him, said that we need to get some Adventure Zone themed adventure tokens. 'Cause
Oh,
they're going to
yeah.
have a token for your character on Adventure, and I was like, I do need that.
That's good.
I do
Yeah,
need that.
That's pretty cool. All right. So next up, we have like some of the most unsurprising news that could ever come out is WotC has decided to roll back the historic changes.
Well, not all of them.
No,
but-
not all of them, but
most of them.
Yeah, and realistically, the big one they're changing is historic cards are no longer going to be, distributed at a, 2 wild card to 1 historic card ratio. Is going to be restored to a 1-to-1 card ratio for, nothing going forward. There was going to be a time where that was going to be the case in I think November or something like that, and then they were going to switch over the 2-to-1 ratio, but that will no longer be happening. Which, I mean, literally,
it's the bare minimum they could have and should have done.
It is more than likely what they already expected to happen, and they just tried to get it by you without you saying anything.
Yeah, we've seen that tweet a couple times about the.
And I can't emphasize it even more.
Common tactic, but I'm going to go with the consensus on I'm not cheering these things. This is what should have happened. This is not WotC being heroic and listening to the people. This is what you should have done for the consumer already.
So their caveat to this change is now that the always on historic play will only progress quests. It will not progress your daily, weekly wins, which okay.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't know what that means for me to be impacted by it. I assume that it.
Oh, I'm still not playing this format, so.
Because that's true as well.
I'll play standard, I'll draft, and I will play brawl. But
yeah,
I don't. Literally right now, I'm very happy to see Ixalan leave. So why
true.
In the world would I go running right back to it?
That's true.
Rekindling Phoenix, my love of it.
And then, so the 15 to 20 cards being added in November through a paid event is now listed as TBD. So we don't know if that's going to be a thing that exists or not. And then the other big change is you're going to be able to have all SKUs available to you when you go to purchase historic cards.
Yeah, that just seems like a no-brainer. How much digital space were you actually eliminating?
I literally don't know. I don't know why that was like that, because they all go back to, that was just the most popular way that people chose to buy these things. It's like, okay, just because it was the most popular doesn't mean you need to get rid of all the other unpopular ones.
That just seems so wild to me. It was 45 packs at a time. It's like, that's not in line with your 50 for 50 sale. That's not in line with actual booster sales in paper. No. Where are you pulling this number from that this is the most popular way? It's just a gem middle, right?
More than likely. It is also... So the packs aren't... You can't really correlate it to a 36 pack booster box.
No, I know you can't. Yeah. But what I'm just suggesting that it does seem like when you look at how they sell everything, it just seems like, I don't know, we're just going to go here.
Sure.
So... I do want to mention that. So the new historic cards, I'm glad that's TBD. And I said, I don't really care for the format. I certainly wouldn't the idea of just taking random mythics from older sets and just plug them into the format and see what happens. Sounds even more miserable. If you want historic to be a format, right? Then it's gotta be like any other extended format where you've got to let it grow organically. Just tossing in random cards feels like trash to me, and that is WotC saying it's a joke. And maybe they don't care. Maybe they'll never care, and that's fine. It's never going to be modern or whatever else. But if they ever think that it might have a chance to do that, if they ever think that's how they want to have competitive play on Arena, you can't trash it now by putting Brainstorm and Wormcoil Engine in there. That just seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
That just seems like somebody had an idea that sounded fun, and no one said no. Everyone kept waiting like a game of chicken. We're not doing this, right? And everyone's like, I'm not going to say no. I might get yelled at. But I'm glad it got pulled back. I hope they don't go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's the idea that this is it sounds tempting, right? It sounds like it could be something that's exciting because people get tricked into being this is how we get a modern-esque format because we get some of these powerful cards that we love playing.
No, but that's not. If you let historic become a modern-esque format with time.
Yeah,
that's just where it is.
But people are notoriously bad with patience.
Well, of course they are. Especially in digital platforms. But,
yeah,
because you will never be able to. You're not going to replicate modern by throwing in a few cards at a time. You know what I mean?
No.
And it should be understood right now that Arena is just, if ever, it's going to get modern. But it's nowhere near that. So if they program 20 cards at a time, they have to program 10,000 cards. You know what I mean? That's just a number in the dark. It's those 15 to 20 cards aren't going to fix all of it.
No, certainly not. And it's especially embarrassing when they have sets that are already programmed that they could just add into it and curate a ban list and actually put that time and effort into it.
But see, if the flip side of that to me would be they have decided then that they don't want to include those in the format for whatever reason.
Right.
And I'd like to pretend they have a reason for that. Like, we don't want the Eldrazi in our historic format. You know what I mean? And like, I could just see that, and then we move forward there. But that idea gets thrown out the window. Like, they had a purpose when you just decide to add cards for fun. And I get it, it's probably a moneymaker. But I still think there's so many other ways you could do that. I mean, I look at myself, like, I don't play in a lot of the extra events for Arena, but the second they started offering, like, the Planecation, give me alternate lands, give me those kind of cosmetics that are the things that I've cared about in paper, the things I cared about on Moto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, go and do that. Because I think, like myself, I know Dave, a number of people, like, that's the only Arena we played during August was to go get those lands. So I think, like, you could do stuff that way without fundamentally changing a format you're just creating.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but overall, I guess a plus. If you are interested in Arena, it will be cheaper for you.
Yeah, historic specifically.
I'm sorry, historic, not Arena.
But yeah,
I mean, it's part of Arena, but you know what I meant.
Everyone knew what you meant.
Thank you, everyone.
But yeah, I'm like off of Arena until Eldraine comes out, to be perfectly honest. And like,
I've just been drafting, just like that. If I've just needed a quick brain fix, just to draft. So,
and that's probably a good idea because I don't have anything from M20. So like,
yeah, it worked out well for me. I've got most of M20, and then I'm sitting on like a 200% chest.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of wild cards, so I can start playing with some Eldraine cards when they first pop out.
Yeah, smart. I just have not been like really focused on trying to work on it.
No, I don't blame you. You got Destiny to play.
100% got Destiny to play. Shadowkeep is going to come out in 2 weeks. Oh man, I'm so excited. Anyway, moving on. The next thing we want to talk about was the Hall of Fame. So we obviously had Hall of Fame voting, which is kind of weird because it wasn't just like a exercise in toxicity within the community.
No, it was almost nice.
It was almost like a pleasant experience.
No.
There was still some stuff that happened for sure.
I do want to say that maybe the reason it wasn't so toxic is because no one was getting in.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So that's something to consider.
The only person that got enough of I think it's like 60-something%.
It is 60% specifically.
So 60% to get in is going to be Reed Duke this year. So that is a thing, for sure. And I mean, personally speaking, I don't really know how to feel about it.
I mean, there's a lot of complicated feelings there. Like,
it sucks because like, if this was
a year ago?
A year ago, like, we would be having a completely different discussion. If this was a month ago, we might have been having a completely different discussion. Yeah. But due to recent interactions and things that he's chosen to still be a part of in his life, and I mean, we've all had people in our lives that we love to a probably a dangerous degree,
a damaging degree.
A damaging degree is a good way to put it. And it's just like, how much of that do you hold against him?
Yeah,
where do you weigh that? I think that's like a lot of what I've been like considering this. Like,
I think
it's tough. It's difficult to talk about.
It is. Hall of Fames in general are tough. Not just in Magic has always tied their Hall of Fame to the Pro Tour. And like, your voting is based off of because like we see this with Chris Perkula was in third place here with 36% of the vote. Mm-hmm. He almost got to the threshold it used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On a competitive level, with the way the votes work, Chris is never going to get in. He's not.
No.
So the Hall decided, the Magic Hall of Fame, the Pro Tour Hall of Fame was what it was, decided a long time ago that results are what they're looking for. And when you look at other Hall of Fames, while they have inductions for, other, for announcers or referees, whatever else, when it comes to players, it's stat driven. It's always going to be stat driven, right?
Yeah.
There are some cases where morality keeps people out. You have things like the steroid era in baseball, Pete Rose betting on the game.
Yeah, Pete Rose.
But there's a lot of really, really bad people in all of the major sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
And I want you to be clear. I'm not saying that Reed Duke is a really bad person. I'm not. That is not the parallel I'm taking. I am saying that if you look at it from how we handle other other Hall of Fames on a purely competitive level, Reed Duke is a super, super deserving Hall of Famer. And I think like when you look at his contributions to the community, I don't know that negates, like, that goodwill should be entirely negated. That being said, as Morgan alluded to, I also feel conflicted because I do not know how to, I don't know how to mesh those two ideas together. You know what I mean? Like, he's been a good ambassador to the game and also objectively a very terrible ambassador for the game very recently. And he may disagree with that. He doesn't seem to have wanted to address it. And I'm saying he has to address it.
I mean, he doesn't.
You know, you can, whatever your mind is. And after some recent stuff on Twitter, I found myself on there's the whatever the other Magic subreddit is. I don't know, not whatever it is. That's scary. Don't go there. That's a bad place. Okay?
So yeah, you can't. First of all, you know, I use Reddit a lot. Reddit's a lot of a good place to get a lot of information, but not all of it's good.
No,
and you have to be able to filter it. You got to be able to think critically about what you're absorbing in that website. I'm not going to say like Reddit's just like a tool, right? It's not good or bad. It's just like a tool, and you can use it for good or evil. And people use it for evil, and obviously, like
I will say, like I said, if you're somebody who like frequents that Reddit subreddit and like really agrees there, you and I are just not going to see eye to eye.
Yeah, we're gonna have
just seemed to be a home for just toxic everything. And whenever I read something like as a website or a newspaper or just like in a group of people, and the prevailing thought is these people know the truth that they won't tell you, and then they is apparently everyone else.
Correct.
You're not with the smart people. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they don't know something secret. Like, they just don't like the way things are. You can not like the things are, but you can also not be a scumbag while you do it.
True.
That being said, that's a place that has rallied around Owen and Reed and Huey. And I would not associate like necessarily Reed Duke with those people because that's not how he's presented himself. But I think if you are in that position, you have to recognize when you are catering to that kind of hate.
Yes.
You're a party and akin to, but by not saying anything, by not stepping up for victims, you are allowing, you essentially show them that you agree with them. And you can say, well, I never said that, but like your silence gives them the okay. Yeah. And we see this. This is more than just a redo. That's a modern political issue. It's a huge idea.
I mean, it's a big issue with like media. Like I know PewDiePie is a very like one of the most subscribed to like YouTubers, but also has had issues with his image and courting a fan base that is that is bad. It's a bad fan base.
Well, and
coming to terms with like trying to maybe rehabilitate his
well, it's hard to rehabilitate when then you take away the donation.
Right, exactly. But trying to, rehabilitate but also stand up to his very toxic fan base.
Yeah, he courted. His language courted that. And I'm not saying that Reed, again, like I don't want to even compare those two because PewDiePie said some things that were bad. They're just awful. Reed hasn't said those things, but we don't. The Magic community is not the only community with this problem, but we put heroes on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And because of that, we tend to stick our fingers in our ear when we shouldn't have put them on a pedestal for any number of reasons. And we don't hold them as accountable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was mentioned that, like, a couple years ago when they had the open letter to, like, stop sexual harassment in the community, like, Owen signed that.
Yeah.
Along with like Reed and Huey. And like those are the kind of things where you see that and maybe that gives you a pass, but the actions are there. You know what I mean? It's not Reed's accountability for someone else's actions. But he's accountable for what his actions, his protections, his inactions court. And I think that's where it's upsetting. So, do I think that should withhold him from the Hall of Fame? I don't. And as it stands, WotC hasn't removed Owen from the Hall of Fame. So, you've got to look at them for their standards and all of this.
True.
Has it fundamentally changed how much I care about the Hall of Fame? Chris Pacula and I getting the last few years when you've heard us ranting on this podcast has adjusted how I care about it anyways. But I will say, I guess it made me happy that neither Saito or Carvalho got in. Right?
Yeah.
But like we view cheating as a big deal, and still 10% of voters voted for them. You know what I mean? But we have to decide if play is the only thing that matters, and if it does, then that's that's where you're making your bed.
That's true.
So, but you have to be prepared for the feedback there. And I don't think that, at least not from what I've seen visibly, I don't think that he or Wizards really is prepared for the way that feedback works. So,
no. But I could, I could see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I want to be careful with this because I don't speak like I know. I've played against Reed Duke. I've met Reed Duke. He is the person that he portrays. He is nice. He talks to everybody. He does these things for the community, and I think that like sometimes it's unfair for us to like, any one of us could be in that situation like you mentioned where a friend has done something horrible. And you may decide to still be that person's friend. Maybe you've decided they do need help. These things, but you've still got to find a way to bridge to, especially when you are in the spotlight that you are. You know what I mean? You get into the Hall of Fame because of your spotlight. Because you have put your face out there multiple times. We had a literal GP that followed. It was GP Reed Duke. Like it followed him.
Yeah.
So I think like you cannot hide behind like, well, he doesn't have to be a role model when you've decided that you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you've let yourself be portrayed as one and you've actively taken that role. So you've got to find balance, and right now we don't have it. And I think that's why it is okay to feel conflicted. You could hear this and go, but he's Reed Duke. And I don't disagree with you. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but I do think that we as a community really need to decide what we're celebrating.
Yeah. Definitely, and look at the whole picture.
Yes.
You really have to look at the whole picture with this entire situation. So it's
And it said WotC does too. WotC, it's no longer the Pro Tour Hall of Fame, right? Now it's just the Magic Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the the professional tour, or promotional tour, whatever you want to call it. And like when I look at things like again, like Chris Pacula sitting here not getting in again, I still ask that same question. Wizards has to decide what they want to represent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Owen's still in, Pacula's not ever getting in, and that rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I feel like when you're looking at contributions to the game, then that definitely makes you pretty upset.
Yeah, especially in just like
100%.
Yeah. And when you think of like what judges have done and like tournament integrity and just like the high profile things the last few months and the last year, you know what I mean? Like it's frustrating. So
I think so. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
But moving on to more positive and uplifting subjects, I thought we'd talk a little bit more.
Oh, sorry.
Talk a little bit more about Brawl. We obviously had a couple of big Brawl events, one of them being on Arena and one of them being in paper at Comic Town. So the first one was the court.
Yeah, it was like the Court of Eldraine event.
Yes, correct.
So as a way to, and this was genius in my opinion. So they had the Brawl decks released for a small event on Arena, but it was nice because you could all the decks showed off the new mechanics of the set.
Yeah.
So you could ostensibly use the Brawl decks as your pseudo beta.
Yes.
You know what I mean, for the player base. Let's see how the Eldraine cards are functioning there, and then also like. I don't know. It's almost like if you download a demo on like Xbox Live or whatever else. Like got a little taste, and if you like these, you can buy them. And if you see a correlation, I know that like the Brawl decks. Now, granted, this may be due to underprinting because WotC seemed to be pretty conservative in their initial printing. Of the Brawl decks.
Ben Blyweiss from Star City Games said this was in his like over 10 plus years of being in the market. This was the most underprinted product he's seen.
Yeah, and like I don't blame them for being scared.
No, and since then they have tweeted out that like they're going to go back to a second printing. You will be able to get these Brawl decks for sure. So
but they sold out on pre-orders on most sites. I'm glad I pre-ordered mine pretty early. So though I've been pretty nervous waiting to see if maybe it gets a cancel because that would be I don't know if they pre-ordered more numbers than they were.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's later Mike's problem, not now.
Not current Mike's problem.
And like the decks themselves, were shot up to sort of like even the second printing, you might actually be paying close to commander prices for these decks, which is crazy. The Arcane Signet, by the way, real expensive card all of a sudden. So, but I think like I don't know if you can draw a direct correlation to the trial on Brawl, but it's got to account for something. You know what I mean? Yeah. To push one or the other, and then just playing the decks. I think they really found a sweet spot with these decks. The cool thing was they let other people design them. So just like. I know Emma Handy designed one. The person who took second in the last Great Designer Search designed one.
Oh, nice.
Melissa DeToro designed one. I remember who designed the other one. But like they just reached out to people and said, hey, like, here's the card pool. Build a Brawl deck. And I thought that was pretty cool. And like the only cards that they got, so most of the cards that got spoiled were the ones that were just printed for Brawl. So like it's not like they had too much in there. But like when you look at the decks, the mana bases for the most part felt good. The 3 mana bases are a bit stretched, but getting you get a temple, you get a shock land. So they felt okay. The decks felt pretty equivalent on power level, and the commanders I think really shined. I was partial to the Jund one, which is the Korvold. The Fey Cursed King, or the Fey whatever, which, as Morgan pointed out to me, is just a man who was very opulent and got cursed and turned into a dragon 100%. And was okay with it. He was just like, yeah, I'm a dragon now, so
this is fine.
But that deck was sweet. Like it showed off the food mechanic a lot. There was a couple of the Witch's Cauldron card. It's just awesome where you get to sack and make food. And like there was just like I was sitting there in arena at a turn where like at the end of turn I sacked a creature to make 2 foods. Which the 2/2 guy that gets a counter whenever a token comes into play got 2 counters for that, and I got to draw a card because I sacrificed a permanent, and then like I had Dreadhorde Invasion, and I was just like, and like I ended turn gained like 12 life, drew 3 cards, had like 2 10/10s, and I was like, oh. Yeah, this is where Mike wants to be playing Brawl. So the other decks felt really good. I will say the Knights deck is the one that felt a little bit awkward because it was like a deck that wanted a low curve, but then its commander was the 6 mana monstrosity.
Yeah, I don't get that one.
There's a bunch of times where I couldn't cast my commander, or like my opponent couldn't cast their commander, and like they had played a bunch of equipment, so if they could draw the 6 land to cast their commander, I would just be Voltron to death, but they couldn't. So that was a little awkward.
Yeah, and, that's something where like I'm excited to get these to take pieces from them and maybe build something else or take it a different way. Maybe take away color and go Boros and see how that looks. Maybe have a different commander and less of a equipment focus potentially, or only playing certain equipments that are powerful. Like doing a lot of different types of things.
And you have some other options too for some multicolored knights that could be your commander, which I think is cool. You probably not Mardu because you have to dip out, but still cool. And I think like that's what I liked about these. Like they're all good bases to build off of. There's cards you're going to upgrade. Your mana bases for sure are going to get upgrades. Yeah. But like if you just want to play the format, you're newish to standard or whatever else, I think these are just a really well done product. So I've been a person, one of the reasons I've liked Magic so much even when I was a kid was like reading Mark Rosewater's articles, and now having talked to Gavin a number of times face to face, and just like working on this and being he has created a product that speaks directly to me as a player, and I'm fairly certain I would follow him into war. Like if Gavin was just like, well, I need recruits, I'd be like, well, sorry, I've got to go to Washington. So, my captain calls. So I'm very happy with these, and it was fun, and it was a cool way to just to show off the format.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited to get my hands on them. I'm just excited for Eldraine to come out and be able to start building some
Brawl decks. This felt like a long holding pattern. Maybe it always does feel like a long holding pattern. But yeah, this I'm ready for. I keep looking at standard and it's just like, okay, cool. Yep, you got vampires and Kethis. Like I don't care. Yeah. So the little taste of Brawl was a nice little, just like a little. I get the little taste.
Right.
So of course we'd have the Brawl Invitational, which is our signature event. And due to my wife being pretty sick, she actually was in the hospital a little bit. I was not able to make it, which
she's fine now.
She's fine now. We wouldn't be casting if she wasn't.
Correct,
I promise.
Correct.
She's literally asleep upstairs right now, feeling much better. But I was very sad I missed it. But Morgan, you did real well.
I did do real well. I was very surprising. So the event is sort of a. This is our second time actually doing it, and it's really a brainchild of you and Keller.
And our friend Houston.
Houston as well.
The triumvirate sort of brain trust of it.
Last year there was single player. There was 1v1 as well as a free-for-all sort of aspect to it, which the free-for-all, the multiplayer was not well received. So this year there was none of that. And how the event really was focused on 1v1, and I mean the best, the most fun that was had was pretty much during the I guess not the most fun. Maybe that's just disingenuous to actually play Magic. But bidding for these decks is actually really exciting. We did this last year as well. But the bidding process is similar to what they've had at Invitationals, which obviously haven't existed for a very at this point in time.
Yeah, what is
Invitational?
He's not talking Star City.
No.
This is like the original Players Invitationals.
This is where if you won, you got a card.
Right. Chris Pacula won one of these. So
correct.
So
the idea is that you bid both life and or card starting hand size. Any card is worth more than any sort of like life total. So, think of it like six cards in your starting hand total in 25 life is a higher bid than 1 life and 7 cards in hand.
Right.
So you have 10 people in this tournament, and then you go around and you have a random selection of 10 decks from a 15 deck pool. And you go around and you have either a random starter or depending on what was it? I think it was depending on rank. And throughout the tournament, we did 3 bids throughout the Swiss
auction
rounds.
2 rounds, auction 2 rounds, auction 2 rounds.
Right. And that was really exciting. We definitely had some people that had seen a lot of the decks, and some people that hadn't seen really much of the decks,
now,
which definitely affected the build.
So I will say, shout to Keller, who helps run this. Brian, he definitely we have typed up our deck lists. He went
he made sure that
so you
were
could
available.
see them for like 2 weeks. So it wasn't a surprise unless you. Well, now granted, the friend of ours who replaced me,
but
he'd seen a fair amount of the decks. But
true,
wasn't really
just from typically when we were going up to play like Friday Night Magic, we were going up and playing like Brawl.
Yeah,
not necessarily me personally, but the royal we as it were,
the queens.
So a lot of these decks just had been seen through that sort of interaction on a weekly basis, and then again, obviously the decks were there in the actual event, so you could actually look at them and see them. And it's a modified Brawl. We have a 5-card sideboard as well, which since we play best of 3 really helps that sort of flesh out that format a little bit more.
Yeah, I should mention that our group probably looks at Brawl a little bit differently. It's one of the things I talked about with Gavin when I mentioned it. Like, we are, most of us are on the downside of a competitive career.
Yeah.
So that competitive, even when we cube as a group, like, we're pretty competitive about it. We play pretty traditional. Like, we're not in. Last year for the Brawl Invitational, we did include some multiplayer rounds, and while I was sad to lose them a little bit, just because I won both of those. Miss you, Tezzeret. But the consensus was we want to play 1-on-1, and we play on like Friday nights. We play in matches, so best 2 out of 3. Sideboards were something we introduced this year, which were really nice. Actually, I think I really liked. We tested them for a long time this year and really liked them. So we're in a hot debate right now over what to do about sideboards with wish cards.
Yeah, there is a surprisingly large amount. Like for standard, there's a surprisingly large amount of wish cards. You have Karn the Great Creator. You have
Vivian,
the Vivian from M20.
Yes, which I don't remember what the honorific there is.
Yeah,
and then there's a card that was revealed today.
It's a new blue card. That's a blue adventure.
Something of the Fae. Hold on, I've got it. It's in my email because that was the arena email card.
Nice.
It is Fae of Wishes.
Fae of Wishes.
So,
and its adventure lets you get a card from outside the game. So it lets you.
Yeah, this is my new show. So, but I think it's interesting. I thought about it last year. If I find some time, I'd like to actually start writing consistently about Brawl, because I don't think there's a lot of content for that, and it'd be fun.
And to be honest, like, there's going to be a demand for it.
I think so.
Once it hits an arena, people are going to want to see
maybe we'll write an article about the setup for the Brawl Invitational, because our finals are cool too. So let's go. So what 3 decks did you play and win in your bidded rounds?
So for the first round, I don't know what happened. People must have just blacked out, because the deck that I received at full power, so 7 cards,
25 life,
was Tatyova.
The Tatyova deck is a Nexus of Fate Scapeshift deck.
Correct.
And it's obscene. I think that deck is disgusting, and I hate playing against it. Like, I absolutely hate playing against it. I couldn't. Morgan texted me. I'm literally at the hospital, just like sleeping on a recliner, and Morgan's like, Tatyova full strength, and I was like, I hate you. Like, how did you do this? Your next 2 rounds, you got.
After that, I got Vivian, which is Vivian Champion of the Wild, which is the
3
rare.
mana. Yeah, the 3 mana you can cast creatures with flash. That deck's really surprisingly robust.
I think I out of all the decks that I played, it was my favorite.
Are you the one that beat Kaya with that deck?
No.
We got full stats breakdown. Let's just tell you that.
Right.
I couldn't believe that. Like Kaya is just like so good at just killing every creature. I couldn't believe that. Like
I forget the decks that I beat with that.
That's all right. We don't again. Like, this is now we're just playing like inside baseball here. But and then the last deck.
And the last deck was Dovin.
Nice, and the Dovin deck is a really nice blue-white tempo deck. I'm pretty proud of that deck.
I can't play that deck very well. I went 1-1 with it. I played against both really aggressive decks though, which I think the tempo deck struggles a little bit against. You definitely have to draw I had to draw my angel package of Lyra and another angel and the thing that makes more angels and just so I ended up X and 1. So the cut is to top 2. And how that is decided is the other players get to decide what the 6 decks are that are going to be in the pool for the top 2 players. And then once the 6 decks are decided, the top seed can either pick the first deck or defer. And then the first seed will pick a deck. The second seed will pick 2 decks.
It's like snake order.
Yeah. Pick 2 decks, then you get the last 2 decks.
The last 2 decks, yeah. You get the last 2 decks. And then you decide secretly which deck you're going to play. And you play. So you're playing a best out of 3 match.
Yes.
But you are doing pre-sideboarded games. Like you get to sideboard first.
Yes.
In the 1v1 matchups. We worked in this format a bunch. I know that Keller said that he was upset with some of the choices that people made. It seemed like they were just trying to maybe troll people.
But that's, yes, there was 100% ideas to there's an Arcades deck, which is a wall deck.
That deck did fine too. Its numbers said it did fine.
Yeah, and it did. There is a Dear Gods deck that people, mainly one former host of the show, Dave Nolan, said that couldn't beat itself. Couldn't beat itself out of a paper bag, a wet paper bag.
Man, I have such a good record with Dear Gods. Here's the thing: I definitely look at deck construction very differently than some of our friends.
Oh, for sure.
And I do really well with these decks. And then they touch them, and it's just no, my brain's broken, you guys. My brain is sick, and I think very much like this. So it's good times.
Yeah, after playing the decks, I definitely felt that if I were to pick up a deck from a particular Brawl creator, I would definitely want to play Keller's decks.
Wow, thanks. Thanks, friend.
I just think that they probably function better for people who have
level 0. I get it.
Who have less of a beautiful mind than you.
Thank you.
All right. That's
now I feel bad that I went insulting. I am sorry.
But I just really Tatia was busted. That deck has
deck's gross.
It's a blue-green deck that's entirely wrapped around having an unbeatable endgame. You literally just going to make sure your opponent never has another turn, pretty much, and has some pretty absurd ability, ramp into card draw into random scape shift wins now with what's the land called?
Field of the Dead.
Field of the Dead. Which is really, really nice. And then obviously, being able to just kind of loop the game over and over again with Nexus of Fate, which, I'm happy is leaving the format. I would be glad that card is gone, 100%. And then, the Vivian Reed deck, the Vivian deck, excuse me, is just it just feels like Little Kid Green.
It does some really powerful things though. If you can keep Vivian in play, that deck feels like a blue deck.
Yes,
so
100%, and that's how a lot of the games felt. I know that I got to beat. It was one of the blue-red decks. So it was either Saheeli or Ralzeric by just amassing a board and then being able to cast. Just having a bunch of things that have trample, and then being able to cast the Snake God Ronus.
Oh yeah,
that's really good.
That is pretty good.
So that deck was probably my favorite, but it was a pretty easy to pilot, mono green deck. You didn't have to think too much about a lot of different things, so that was fairly easy. And I played it with more of an aggressive slant when I was piloting it. Again, Dovin, I'm not good at playing tempo decks. I'm not sure what good opening hands look like in that deck comparatively to not.
Lands to cast Dovin.
And also when you're playing against aggressive decks, Dovin isn't always the best because
you got to take a very different tactic. It's for sure.
You can't effectively protect him, and that is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
You can't really like start to build up a force against some of the aggressive red decks that exist, unless you just get Lyra Dawnbringer, and then you're like, cool, nice Krenko deck. I'm just going to gain infinite life.
So unfortunately, you did fall.
I did fall
to a friend of ours.
I lost to our friend Justin, who's been overheard.
Overheard on a podcast. He was in we went to Gen Con show. He was one of the cards.
He was not mic'd up, but he was there. And yeah, I was able to. I beat the Walls deck with Daragaz. So that was nice.
as you should.
But the other two decks, like I had Tatyova again, but I just like couldn't get any traction. And you really kind of need to have some pretty successful early turns to be able to consistently do well into the late game. And I think like he was playing Raul Zarek and just like had the Nutso burn hand, just like couldn't.
Yeah, Raul's tough.
The tough thing with that deck, so the deck plays Gutter Snipe, and if you can't like effectively get a Gutter Snipe off the board against the Raul Zarek deck, you're probably dead. You just take too much damage.
So real quick here, so if you are interested in like how we run the Brawl Invitational, the auction format, or like the finals, like reach out to us. That's fine. I do want to give a list of decks as well. So if you are interested, we have these deck lists, so I can send them out. I'll do it in order of wins and losses. So starting with the lowest wins, which was Izoni, sadly.
Yeah.
Then Vannifar, Ral. So that's Ral, 4-mana Ral from Morning Spark. Rada. Kaya, which is 3-mana Kaya, not 6. Daragaz, Arcades, Tatyova, Krenko, Rakdos, Vivian is Champion of the Wilds. Judith, Dovin is also 3-mana Dovin from Guild, or no. It's fine, it's the 3-mana one. I guess they're both 3-mana. Shoot. What's it? The Dovin.
The Mythic Rare one. How about that?
Not Hand of Control. I can't remember off the top of my head. Shalai, which I'm really sad Shalai's rotating. I love that deck. Sweet Proliferate deck. And Saheeli, which was pretty good. So yeah, if you're interested in any of those deck lists, if you're like, I might try Brawl, we have some lists that we have. They're not updated yet for Eldraine, obviously, but I mean, they are battle tested. Let me tell you.
And to be fair, like they're. The whole deck's not rotating or anything like that.
No. Yeah, some are. Some of the commanders and like some of the decks are definitely done. Like sorry, Daragaz. Like so much is leaving. So, but it's okay. True. It just becomes Korvold for me.
There you go.
So we're just very hungry. But no, yeah. So if you're interested in those decks or anything, I know we're playing some inside baseball with that. But the event, it's one of those things where I would encourage you to like, if you want to try the format, have some fun with it. Like this is a way for us to play consistently and. Do something really cool with the format. I was sad I missed the second one. I won the first one, so I couldn't defend it. But I was hoping said Morgan and I could do some like cool like secret handshakes if he had won this one.
That's true. It would have been nice, but
someday
just wasn't in the cards this time.
I get it. Wasn't in the cards.
Yeah,
that's a good one for Magic.
Wasn't in the cards this time. Maybe next time though. It was hilarious because I like I said, just hadn't really I haven't played a lot of the decks. To be honest, I played Tatyova before, but never played like Vivian at all. Maybe played like Dovin.
And fell in love.
I never maybe played Dovin like once or twice at most. And didn't even bother looking at what the actual like how the end of the tournament was going to be because just wasn't planning on being there. Just like wasn't planning on making it. So
did you pick first or did you defer?
I picked first. Tatyova was on the board. So
okay, that's fair, I suppose.
I had to first pick Tatyova.
I prefer deferring. So
yes, I would have if we were looking at a different set of decks, but I just felt that Tatyova was the strongest deck that was being presented. But then the other two decks that I kind of got saddled with were.
You say that, but you only won with Daragaz, so I don't want to hear it.
That's true.
I don't want to hear you insulting my decks, okay?
That's true. I did only win with Daragaz, but that was against Arcades. And
hey, Arcades did fine, all right?
Arcades did do fine.
Arcades did better than Daragaz, Kaya, Rada, Ral, Vannifar, and Izoni. Just saying.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. But Big Dragons did win in that.
Yeah.
There were multiple times where, like, I don't think I ever made Daragaz an egg. I always
Really?
put them in the exile zone.
That's fair.
Because I always had enough mana to just
Cast
recast
him
it.
again. Yeah, that's fair.
And I was like, I just need to
Yeah,
recast
that's why
him
he
again.
works so well as a commander. He's just like, you just have a basher just sitting there.
Right,
So,
exactly. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I do encourage, like, I know that we kind of a very unique sort of situation where we do have a lot of people that can be, like, easily tempted into participating in this kind
True.
of event, but, like, be a champion of this format and get people excited about it and get people invested in it, and, like, coming soon is going to be the perfect opportunity because people can hopefully, once we get some more print runs of the Brawl decks, but can just, like, have a single thing that they can purchase and then, like, build from.
Yeah, and again, like Commander, there's not a like, the Commander precons are never bad, but they're never anywhere close to the power level of a random Commander deck. But Brawl's a little bit different. Like, yeah, the mana base could use work, but you're not that far off just because they're standard cards,
Yeah,
and
you truly
literally
are.
the smallest standard pool you'll get. So
Right.
there you go.
All
Let's do competitive stuff real quick because there's not a lot to talk about.
Sure. Before we do that, I do want to give a quick shout out to Comic Town.
I guess they are pretty great.
They're a lovely sponsor.
They let us host the Brawl Invitational.
They
as well.
did. So thank you
Go
for that.
and they go to our local game store, which is Comic Town, because they're great. But if you can't go to Comic Town, go to your local game store and, like, support them and hold your weird events there because it's nice.
It is nice. They're actually going to be having a Modern IQ this Saturday. So that's the 21st. It's going to have a 12 p.m. start time, so 11 a.m. registration time. It's going to be $35, and definitely check it out. I know that Modern is in a pretty interesting state right now.
Yeah.
Still, even post bans, it feels like it's not quite solidified. Maybe we're starting to see, like, that the Wurza decks really coming into stride. I know that
Mox Opal is $130 now.
that's a lot. It's a lot of
So if
money.
you have Mox Opals, go play them or sell them. It's where you have two options.
You only have two options. But yeah, definitely go play some Modern. I know that Modern is huge at Comic Town. When the Friday before the Brawl Invitational, like, I was today trying to play Modern, it was a 6-round event
Yeah, for an FNM, that's
for an
crazy.
FNM. So it's popular. People definitely like their Modern there. So you're going to have plenty of competition, to say the least. But so moving on to competitive, we definitely had a lot of Legacy that actually happened.
Yeah,
so
for Legacy this week and next week, which makes for good for Brawl, for Paloozas.
yes, for sure.
So you know us. I apologize. If you're excited about this Legacy content, we're gonna breeze through it because it's not
super
our
quick.
it's not our bag. Also, I didn't do an extensive, like, dark web search, but had a hard time finding the GP Ghent playlist or deck list. They're listed on MTG Goldfish, but the site wouldn't load. They're not listed on Star City at all. I went googling for them, and I kept getting 2012, which I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
the format. So
I know that a lot of the coverage is now specifically on Twitter.
Yes.
Which makes it hard to, in my opinion, hard to gather that information
Yeah,
effectively.
maybe I could just go to the CFB Twitter, but I didn't. So congratulations to the winner of Ghent, player blank.
Yes, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed playing the Legacy deck that you chose to play.
Was Ghent teams? Hold on here.
Players.
This might actually be more important than I'm remembering. I'll look it up.
maybe
you
it
move,
was.
You move on. I'm going to look it up.
Hold on.
Like, move on to Star City. I'll look it up. real
Yeah.
quick.
So next up we have Syracuse, which again was Legacy. It was won by a Aiden Beer, Breyer, excuse me, playing 4-color control, defeating Blaze Kohler, playing Storm, which is pretty funny because their name is Blaze.
That first place list in the Open is definitely Modern Horizons the deck, so you got to take a look at that one.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot. So let's see. We have Plague Engineer, Renin 6. We have Arkham's Astrolabe, of course. I mean, Snow-Colored Lands, I guess those aren't exclusively to Modern Horizons, but when you're taking a look at this, Force of Negation in the sideboard, there are definitely a lot of cards that exist now from Modern Horizons that kind of make this be able to be a thing. Renin 6 is... it and Arkham's Astrolabe really function to make a mana in a lot of these decks just so free, and which really feels like the same issue that Deathrite Shaman was creating in the Legacy format.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when Arcalive's is going to get banned from 2 formats. So that's hilarious.
I mean, like, you just literally created something that's so efficient at its job and just replaces itself. And, like, it's
specifically for Pauper, I've heard this argument, but I do think it's interesting that, like, Arcolab is so good that, especially as I said in Pauper, this is where this argument was made.
Yeah.
But it's true, I think, in a lot of formats right now, there is almost no reason to run basic lands.
Yeah.
Like, that aren't snow lands.
Oh,
right? Like,
I mean,
like, and I'm sorry, I guess I paused too long on that point, but like, like, there's no reason to run lands. But like, there's enough cards now that you might want to like show your opponents you might be casting. In Modern, like, I've been casting the Codal, and like, it's jumped up to $10. It's ubiquitous enough now that like, if you were going to play a basic island, well, maybe make it a snow island. Who knows? But like for Arcolab purposes specifically, like, you might as well always, the ubiquity of that card and how it works, you might as well just have snowlands in every deck.
Yeah.
You might as well at least, before you would see, like, in Pauper, you'd see, like, blue-red decks doing that, like, even if they didn't have Skred, just because, like, and sometimes you see mono-red, like, prison decks do that, where it's just, like, to make you think maybe you had Skred, maybe they would play Scrying Sheets, but now you have some cards that are, something you might want to see, and, like, even those prison decks are sometimes playing, like, you're just cycling for that, so, it's kind of interesting, like, I think to me that speaks to the card being wrong, for maybe more for Pauper than for Legacy, but like,
sure,
if it's like, hey, like, snow cover lands are now strictly better than regular lands, well,
yeah,
that's awkward.
You definitely have like created something that feels like you are actively taking out a choice in the game,
100%,
which I know is kind of a similar or the same argument that you have with Arcane Signet, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's just like you're taking this aspect of choice that I can't play any basics that I want, even though this is sort of a decision that shouldn't necessarily like be a strategic one, if that makes any sense.
No, it definitely makes sense.
It should be like theoretically a what's aesthetic choice, right?
Yes, 100%.
But now you have that's being taken away because there's now a strategic decision to be made. But maybe I'm just not thinking of the game in the way that at the same time, like the way that pros think about it, where like even everything down to a basic land choice is strategic. I don't know. I don't think that many levels. I'm not playing 4D chess over here when I'm thinking about Magic in a lot of ways, but I know that there definitely are some people that are much better than me at Magic that definitely do think of it that way. So maybe my perspective of it isn't the correct one.
I don't know,
but
I just know. I think if you can go back and listen to me talk about how underpowered Modern Horizons was, just go back and tell a guy he's dumb. Like, if you were a patron during that content, I'm sorry, you paid for bad content. I'm apparently stupid, so...
Well, I mean, like, I don't think, like, even if, we had some pretty bad takes with Modern Horizons, it wasn't that much different than the other takes that were going around.
No, we were like, we should be better, Morgan. I don't know.
But
honestly, it still surprises me how much of an impact some of these cards have made.
I just think like people are notoriously bad at evaluating cards. Like, it just is like that.
That's fair.
Context is a lot, and like how things kind of come together is not something that's easily to just like identify when it happens. So. It's just interesting to see like the impacts. I mean, in 7th place we have a Hogak list.
Yeah,
like that's like that card is powerful.
If you want to know another reason why I'll always stay out of Modern or out of Legacy, it's because that weird like tryptophobic jerk is there. So I don't want it. Don't want it. I want to backtrack for a second for GP Ghent because I think like my Googling did terrible things. GP Ghent is not Legacy. It was Team Modern, and my brain clicked because I was like, wait, no, I saw this, and it's pretty important because the winning team was Esther Chuilo, Ruben Perez, and Yoel Calafel. So it's yet another woman to win a GP.
Yeah, that's great.
So and I was like, my brain was like, Mike, you're being an idiot. You're forgetting something big. And I was.
So.
Now, that was a team of, she played Jund, those two played Wurza.
Wurza.
And then we had Bant Stoneblade, Mardu Shadow, Burn, and then Jund, Wurza for, or sorry, that's the same team. I will try to find the other ones. But a lot of Wurza in our team event.
And again, that's not surprising. I think like people are coming around on that deck, and I think like
we have Dredge, Wurza, Jeskai Stoneblade, and then Tron, Esper, Urza, Tron. So, man, don't do this to me, Modern. We had hope.
But I mean, like,
don't give me hope.
this is the thing. Like, even with the aggressive bannings that happened, you know, the thing with Modern is you're always just going to try to search out the most powerful thing that can happen, and even thinking about it more, like, do we have to make the complete 180 and be like, go from Modern Horizons is not powerful to like Modern Horizons is an actual mistake?
You're just like, you know what, just take it all out, just delete the whole set.
Like,
nah, I don't think that's true. I think you just gotta, there's certain cards you've got to adjust for. But like, here's the thing, I think like, you look at the Wurza decks, whenever you look at these artifact based decks, this is coming to a head. We talked about Faithless Looting for a long time, and then Modern Horizons finally brought it to a head. And maybe that wasn't their goal in designing Horizons, but like, now we can look at this, and if Wurza becomes this big deck, and we've already been talking about Mox Opal for a long time, then maybe it's like, no, Urza's fine, Mox Opal's a problem. You know what I mean? So, just having, a cheap thing that you can cast, your spells ahead of turn, so maybe it's not so much like, Urza's a very powerful card, don't get me wrong. But I think like when you look at that, you want the format, you want it to be a turn 4 format, you want to have time to breathe, well then you take your 4 mana card and make it actually cost 4 mana. You know what I mean? Now some of these decks are playing things like Pentad Prism and stuff, and that's fine. If you're playing that without Mox Opal, then like, yeah, you're opening up a window for interaction for yourself. But Mox Opal, like, is such a low opportunity cost that I think like, so no, I don't think you have to remove Modern Horizons. I think Modern Horizons is now finally pushing out some of these dinosaurs that are too much for the format. So
maybe. I like that take.
So it'll probably be a little bit before we see Opal, unless like Wurza really takes over. I think that we've just in the first few weeks we've seen like, there's a Jeskai Stoneblade deck here, but
and there's you said there was a Bant Stoneblade, and
but like
Jund is still there too.
Right, but I'm saying like it looks like Sunform Mystic has been healthy on ban so far.
Yeah,
a lot of decks still represented, and White's now seeing some play with those cards. So they'll probably wait a little bit to see the format bounce back, but maybe 2 announcements from now, ban Mox Opal on Ban Splinter Twin, and we'll be fine.
They won't do that.
Shut up! I need this.
You can't. They can't.
I need it.
You won't get it.
I need it.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
And if you look at just quickly looking at the Modern Classic, we have Mono Green Tron winning that. But a lot of different decks in the top 8. I mean, this is Modern getting closer to what Modern used to be. And granted, there's a lot of big land here, but Mono Green Tron, Grixis Death Shadow, Amulet Titan, Devoted Devastation, 4-color Wurza, another copy of Titan, a copy of Titan Shift, and another copy of Mono Green Tron. So there's a lot of big land stuff there. But I mean, you have Grixis Death Shadow, and we have Mardu Death Shadow, and again, like, did not think that deck was going to bounce back, and it really has. And like Devoted Devastation, like green based creature combo decks coming back, like they were just gone. For close to a year, just entirely gone. So seeing them come back, whatever form that is, I think is fairly interesting. So, but you need the top 16. You still have Burn, you have Spirits, you have Bant Stoneblade. Interesting though, no humans in this top 16, and no humans in the top 4 of Ghent. So humans not enjoying all these lands, humans not enjoying all these Batterskulls.
I think it's a deck that just does not have good matchups anymore.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And to be honest, probably hasn't really been able to keep up with where the format's been going. It not benefiting at all from Modern Horizons honestly hurt the deck. Or when's the last like new card that has really been effective in humans? Like, I mean, humans,
like, just slotted right into humans.
Like humans, I know, like, did play Plague Engineers in the sideboard, but that's a sideboard card.
So like Kiteself Rebooter, obviously.
Yeah,
Ixalan.
I think that's the last one, and that's what helps further solidify the deck.
Huh.
but the deck has been effective at being able to
deputy detention.
Sure.
So that's not a human.
Yeah, or Militia Bugler might have been your other answer too.
Yeah.
So, but like those cards aren't like, it just hasn't seen anything that really pushes it over the edge. It's not going to get anything from Eldraine coming out.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Maybe like you could try to make an argument for like Prince Charming, or Charming Prince, excuse me.
No, I mean, yeah, whatever.
But I just don't like that. I just don't think like that's where you want to be anymore. And that's unfortunate. I really did like humans as a deck for a very long time. It was a very aggressive creature deck, but now I think like there's just better things you could be doing in the format.
I don't think it's like dead. I think that like it doesn't take much to push it back in.
No,
and
it could just be waiting in the wings.
You know, it's when you look at a format of big mana, you know, Tron, Titan Shift, Amulet Titan. Humans interaction points aren't great for that.
No,
but if the format shifts again after some of those decks get hated out a little bit, then you could see humans, I think, make a resurgence. But yeah it's definitely not humans' time now.
No, and I think it's tough because when you look at Tron, Titan, Amulet Titan, and then Titan Shift, they all like have their slight variances, their slight differences. So it's not like
no, you can't just like there's not like the piece of hate.
I know. I mean, like you could like like a Blood Moon is a pretty
you can't play that card.
Not humans, yeah, no. So, but I mean, like saying for like other decks to start.
For sure.
What do other decks have to start playing so that your deck becomes more playable? But then you also get really hurt by Blood Moon.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Like it's tough to be like when is your time again with humans? And I don't know. When you look at something like Spirits, maybe like that's where you start looking to shift over to. You know, you're really attacking in the air. You're trying to avoid making that connection with the Batterskull and just like trying to have a racing game. Maybe you can play your own Stoneforge Mystics.
Yeah,
theoretically,
I've enjoyed Bant Stoneforge, and like whether that's Spirits or not, I think like the interaction points of like Spell Quellers and Force of Negations just does give those decks a little bit of a different angle.
That's true.
So. You know, and obviously, you know, if you're playing just like full on Spirits, you get Lords, and you know, if you can that the kind of interaction with it, but yeah, we'll see. I'm happy. You know, it's going to be a little bit before we get it. Like I said, we have Legacy. I believe we have Legacy next week. I don't know. I'm apparently bad at the internet today, but we don't really have much in the way of events until after the pre-release. So I think. It'll be interesting to see. You know, Modern will keep getting churned out through Moto, and it'll be interesting to see what Modern returns as post Eldraine. You know, I don't know if we've seen anything in Eldraine that's definitely going that screams Modern impact, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, we already talked about the Greenland. Like,
sure,
I think,
yeah. I mean, like, I
don't think there's anything that's going to be. It's too early to tell.
Yeah,
that's all
I do think that. If some, I know it's weird, but I do think that the Kenrith twins could be an interesting walker if some variants of blue-red want to still exist in Modern. So, but anyways, that's for later. That's for later,
for sure. But yeah, so that's. I mean, there was more Legacy for the Classic in Syracuse.
Yeah, I just don't care.
It was won by Temur Delver, powered by Rich Cali.
Rich, I care for you, and I'm glad you won.
Temur Delver in second, and there's also Temur Delver in third. So Temur Delver is a Delver. Oh my gosh, it's almost all Delvers. The first 6 decks are Delver decks, and then 7th is 4-color control, and 8th is Omnitel.
So go to the wrap-up part. I think that's where we're at now.
I don't get why people
go right to the wrap-up part.
I don't
because their volcanic islands literally cost so much money that if they don't play them, then they're losing money. I think.
Probably not. I mean, I'm sure they look at Modern and go, I don't know why people play this.
Oh, absolutely they do. No, that's how formats work, man. Like, everybody hates each other.
Welcome to Magic, where everyone hates each other.
And the points don't matter.
So coming up this weekend, we do have GP at Atlanta. With a format that may or may not be Legacy.
I'm fairly certain it's Legacy, but that could have also been 2012 Ghent that I'm looking at again. So,
so we may or may not talk about it next week. Probably won't talk about it next week.
Yeah, I don't think it matters what format it was. We probably wouldn't talk about it.
It's a Magic format.
Synchronized swimming. I'm all in.
So something we did forget to talk about that is cool, that is going to be happening is large commander-based events.
Oh, shoot, you're right. I asked you at the beginning that I get all the stuff for community.
I wasn't paying attention, man.
Yeah. We'll have to come back to those.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's a cool thing that's going to be happening.
Get those soul rings. If you want them, go get them.
Go get them. Get them rings. Them rings.
Them
be
rings,
like
them
Sonic.
Rings, them soul rings, them rings, them rings, them.
And then we're also coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend, we have Throne of Eldraine pre-releases. So
yeah, I think I'm going to do at least one of those. So
yeah.
My wife, who is normally an arbiter of if we do pre-releases or not, because I like to do Two-Headed Giant with her.
Yeah.
She's really been excited about this set.
Cool.
Some of that flavor stuff has really appealed to her. So
yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, that should be some fun times. But that's going to be everything for our show this week. If you want to reach out to us, you can. We have multiple different ways you can do so. We have Twitter, it's YourEndstep, and when you add us, it's at YourEndstep. We also have Facebook, facebook.com/@YourEndstep, or email at YourEndstep, at YourEndstep@gmail.com. Excuse me, lost my train of thought there. If you are listening to us via a podcast app that lets you leave a rating or review, we do humbly ask that you do so. We really feel that we're a 5-star podcast when we decide to put one out. Cha-ching.
Hey, I like how you said that we humbly ask for that, but then we think we're a 5. That's not humble. Hey, we humbly ask for you to tell us how amazing we are, because we are worth 5 golden, luscious stars.
Yes, that's the...
But humility is our first name. It's humility at your end step.
Clearly. Listen, if you don't ask for it, sometimes you don't get it, all right?
That is true.
Sometimes you just got to ask for it.
I don't think truer words have ever been spoken.
If you are listening to us via Legit MTG, just want to give a quick shout out to that show for hosting the podcast, and check out some of the other articles they have. Hopefully Mike will, find some non-existent time that he definitely doesn't have to write some Brawl articles. So
I really want to. I really love to write about it, consistently, and I think Josh would like for me to write about it consistently.
Probably.
So,
one final shout out to our patrons. Thank you so much for again supporting the show, and you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/@YourEndstep. And again, go to Comic Town this weekend for their Modern IQ. Check out worldofcomictown.com for their upcoming events, like their pre-releases that are going to be happening. But thank you so much for listening this week, and you have a great one. Bye.